Well, hello. Here we go again. I've got a quote for you. You are now moving on. You are wondering, what is happening to me? Recognize that you are in the bardo. Everything appears as light and images. You become terrified by the bright light of wisdom, and you want to flee from it, but you feel pleasurably attracted to the soft light of the locus. Do not take pleasure in the soft light, but feel longing for the bright light. So, the Buddha families represent the reality of human consciousness, falsely externalized and viewed as something separate or different from us, because they're in essence the reality of the five skandhas that make up any human life stream. Remember that according to Buddhist philosophy, what we think of as an individual is actually a stream nexus of five skandhas or aggregates. They're not really separate parts out of which an individual is composed, but are aspects of the indivisible and interdependent process of the body-mind stream. Each deity, then, is actually a skandha, an aspect of the individual's reality in virtual symbolic form. Again, remember that each deity appears embraced in sexual union with a female deity in what is called the yab-yum posture of sexual embrace. This reflects the belief that reality itself is manifested in a masculine and feminine polarity, and that these two aspects cannot be thought apart from each other without distorting the realization of reality. When the deities appear in father-mother form, their union is a symbol of the experience of your own true mind in meditation, which has a male-female polarity. In the Bardo Tadal, let's see, great symbol. Yeah, here we go. It says, if I do not attain this, I will recognize the Bardo state as it is, and attaining the indivisible great symbol form in the Bardo. Now, if you look at the footnote there on that page, when you read it, the great symbol is a tantric meditation practice in which the whole of experience is transformed into a mandala. In this state, the great bliss is produced from the union of the male and female aspects of practice, skillful means or compassion, and knowledge or emptiness. It is a direct perception of the sacredness and vividness of life. Just as in Taoism, physical human sexuality is viewed as a transposition into a lower key of a higher principle, and so is the very opposite of what materialistic reductionism, which does the opposite. Reductionists like to boil everything down to some sort of basic thing that they think is primary. So we could take Freud as a classical example of a reductionist who thought that everything reduced to sex, a sublimated sexuality. So for him, religion, art, affection, friendship, all of it's sublimated sexuality. Even spirituality for Freud is sort of sublimated sexuality. Tantra flips this, right? Instead of everything reducing to sex, sex points to everything. Sexuality points to religion, art, and so on. And in this sense, sexuality is sublimated spirituality. So it's exactly flipped. So the figures do not merely represent physical individuals, but the structure of reality in your own mind. And there's nothing strictly sexual indicated here except as a subset of the inherent polarity of all life, the yin and yang, which structures and rules all mental and physical life, right? So the emphasis is on seeing actual physical sex as a shadow of a higher reality. And instead of focusing on seeking physical sex, we seek the union of the two reality principles within ourselves in meditation, right, which we just read about, between intellect and consciousness, which is called the achievement of the great symbol. So since the deities represent the structures of our mind, they must also represent the basic polarity of our mind, and so they appear as a male-female principle of reality joined together, a symbol of the duality of male-female being integrated, and the idea of the basic dualism of all life being integrated, right? And mystical experience is not reduced to the orgasm, but the orgasm is a shadow of something far more real, because spiritual realities are always more and not less. To transcend physical sex in this sense is to find a freedom in something so intense that we might make a kind of analogy. Physical sex is to meditative bliss as water is to whiskey, or whatever is your drink of choice, or chemical. Right? Actual physical sex, then, can be a symbol of something far more intense and real, and could also be a way to practice meditative awareness. Remember, this path follows the Mahayana principle of finding liberation in the world, in which all there is here and now, wherever your here and now finds you, the wisdom of no escape. So the actual life you live, in all its many aspects, offers many paths to liberation. They're called many Dharma doors. And if your life includes sex, that too can be a part of the path of liberation as well through mindfulness, awareness of what is real so as to know how to live in the light of it. Remember, all aspects of life become an opportunity for awareness and compassion in mindful living. Eating, drinking, seeing, hearing, thinking, speaking, touching, working, and yes, even physical sexuality represent an opportunity for compassion and mindfulness in which we learn to see the relation of body-mind. Right? The physical and the spiritual from a universal perspective. The whole point of any practice is to overcome the sense of I and mine, the whole screen of egocentric feeling and prejudice which creates the illusion of individuality. Now, sex could help you do that, but there's nothing magical about sex per se. So could paying attention to how you breathe, becoming aware of your surroundings, imaging mandalas, chanting mantras, or simply being mindful of whatever you're doing. And sex, like anything else, could also serve to further imprison us in our ego illusion. And being such a powerful instinct, a very powerful trap, as any American, or anyone really, or just go to the Publix if you can now, 6 feet apart from everyone, and look at the magazines that they have there. Right? Every potential path is also potentially a path down, or every potential path up is also potentially a path down. Every opportunity for success and opportunity for disaster. And you wouldn't want to confuse Tantra with pornography. When people mention Tantra, they always think of tantric sex. But equally important in Tantra is eating, drinking, even how you wear your clothes. There's like a tantric process. There's a tantric practice of making your own clothes and wearing them in a certain way as to advance your enlightened mind. Just realized you were here, Nicole. Yeah. So remember that the 5 Buddha families represent a path to liberation from egocentric illusion, representing a reality which we must recognize and integrate with. In each case, there's the possibility of success if you recognize, or failure if you do not. So each day represents a certain set of problems as you meet them and try to recognize what is real. For example, on the first day, you have to master fear itself through recognizing it as the wisdom of all-encompassing space. You need to see in all cases that the highest things are potentially present in the lowest ones. Right? So on the first day, Vairochana appears, who stands, as we said before, for the principle of physicality and matter, whose flip side is the potentiality of space. No matter, no space. No space, no matter, right? If we didn't have bodies, we couldn't move around. We couldn't do all the things we do. Vairochana represents how the ego-bound consciousness confined to matter can grow into a state of cosmic consciousness. Vairochana means the radiating one, or the illuminator, and he illuminates this possibility. Matter, physicality, can seem to be the opposite of true spirituality, but that would be a mistake. Matter, having a body, being a bodily creature made of matter that moves in a world of matter, can sometimes give rise to a sort of claustrophobic closeness, giving rise to fear. And fear is feeling closed in with no way to escape. And the emotion of fear can paralyze you, right? If this manifests itself in many different ways, particularly in our culture, with the extreme emphasis on diet and looking a certain way and having to appear a certain way, and we want to mold and sculpt our body, and the fear of growing old, and so on, right? And the fear of sickness, feeling closed in, that can paralyze you. But there is also here an opportunity to recognize fear itself and how the fundamental experience of fear relates to reality. Because matter, or thinginess, as I think of it, is in reality the great void. Matter is in reality insubstantial. And the fear that corporeality brings is the flip side of the wisdom of all-encompassing space, the wisdom of spaciousness, the wisdom of no escape. Matter seems to restrict, confine, and present a danger. For if you have a body, then suffering will certainly follow, another of the marks of existence. But if fear is recognized and integrated, then liberation can occur. Each moment of real fear is an opportunity for wisdom. But we might feel threatened by the sort of cold clarity of reason which this wisdom represents. No way to move without bodies, no bodies without suffering, nowhere to go away from it now, the wisdom of no escape. Space requires body, mind goes with matter. This is as good as it gets. Feeling threatened by that clarity then, threatened by the light of wisdom, our karmic instincts usually are activated toward the habitual tendencies that start to reform our mind once again into the patterns we use to sort of duck the light. And we move on to the next day. Or something more disastrous could occur. We could be attracted into what are called one of the 6 lokas, the 6 worlds of driven existence. For if the deity is not recognized, you could really be messed up and pulled off into one of these little illusion worlds. In the Bardo Tadal, let's see here. Do not take pleasure in the soft white light of the gods. Do not be attracted to it or yearn for it. If you're attracted to it, you will wander into the realms of the gods and circle among the 6 kinds of existence. It is an obstacle blocking the path of liberation. So do not look at it, but feel longing for the bright, sharp, piercing blue light, which appears with Vairochana. Now, a loka is a world of meaning. It's like a continuous feedback loop in a computer program. Step 1 to step 2 to step 1 to step 2. And lokas can be full of pleasure or full of pain, but ultimately it's not smart to get hung up in one because it delays realization of reality. The key is that these lokas seem comforting and cozy compared to the shining hard brilliance of reality. So in weakness, we might be attracted to what seems an easier path in the 6 worlds of driven existence. We're attracted because they seem to offer an escape into a cozy, safer place. But always the easy, comfortable way is a trap, right? 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 As Master Yoda tells us, right? Yeah, the dark side seems easy, right? Or easy the dark side seems, right? But it leads to suffering. Now, these 6 worlds are not simply some actual world in another dimension, but represent worlds of possible meaning now, wherever our now may find us. The 6 lokas are always present possibilities now, and each of us has lived in some of these, maybe all of them, and may be living in one now. We experience the 6 lokas in life as well as death. Right? The lokas represent the way we habitually block out Bardo reality in life now. All worlds dissolve at the moment of death for you, then begin to reform out of structures of desire that create the illusion of ego. Now I have here something we would have read aloud in class, but alas, we're not in class. And it's from a talk by Lama Edward Kungavan Tussel, or as I like to think of him, Lama Ed. Right? So I'm just going to read this to you. On the wall in every Tibetan temple or monastery, usually in a prominent place, you will find a large painting of the Wheel of Life. The wheel is held and displayed by Yama, the ferocious lord of death, who glowers over its top curvature. The wheel itself consists of several concentric bands of figures. The outermost shows 12 vignettes, illustrating the 12 links in the chain of interdependent arising, the lawful sequence by which all phenomena come into existence and pass away. In the center of the circle are three beasts, usually a pig, a cock, and a snake, forming a circle, often with the tail of one and the mouth of the one that follows. These are the three poisons: desire, hatred, and ignorance. They are the motive force that drives the cycle of existence. In the first band out from the center, we see a great moving chain of human beings cycling through the various states of exaltation and degradation. It is almost identical to the wheel of life in medieval Christian times, in which king, priest, warrior, beggar, thief, and leper swing through the macabre dance in which the humble are elevated and the mighty are debased, with a kind of helpless inexorability that makes us slightly uneasy as we look on. By far the greatest space in the central band of the painting is occupied by a depiction of the six realms. The meaning of this set of symbols is very dense and many-layered. At one end of the continuum, the vast majority of Tibetans understand these realms as something akin to parallel worlds, right? As a sort of traveler's narrative, being an accurate representation of actual places they might be reborn into. Now let us pause here for a moment and consider rebirth, which is now in modern times such an alien idea here in the West, though it was not always so. We have a difficult time with this one, but it's not so very far removed from the basic conservation laws of physics, which we find to be very neat and logical. According to these laws, matter and energy may neither be created nor destroyed, but undergo transformations from state to state, dependent on various causes and conditions. We might wonder if life itself, being neither created nor destroyed, undergoes similar transformations, which manifest as the cycle of embodiment. Indeed, the other end of the continuum of understanding of the wheel of life is a very profound statement about the nature of embodiment and manifestation. Now, both of these extremes may be either too concrete or too rarefied for us to resonate with. It is probably best to start in the middle, with things that we can see and experience. For if there's anyone who has not seen and experienced a hungry ghost, it is simply because they are not looking in the right place. Any teaching of the Dharma can be clarified by looking no further afield than at ourselves and those around us. The six realms, the lokas, right, describe the six conditions of rebirth may be very profitably understood as being psychophysiological states through which we all pass, more or less continuously, and find a more enduring center of gravity in one or the other. Beings in hell are dominated by anger and hatred. They live in constant torment and threat of violence. They are pictured as being cleaved, torn, and variously abused by demons of wrathful appearance. Their major suffering has to do with extremes of heat and cold. We have all experienced both hot and cold anger, though we usually tend to express it in one way or the other. The result of hot anger is quite often a chilly response. When we are hell beings, we are burning with rage, or in a numbing emotional coldness, unresponsive and inaccessible. We are in the grip of paranoia and see the environment as hostile and threatening. Externally, we see hell beings, that is, beings whose center of gravity is in hellish experience, in cases of severe mental disorder, in which the torment is so great that life becomes unlivable and falls into complete chaos or becomes self-destructive. Hungry ghosts are overwhelmed by a kind of greed, and the result is the experience of a hunger and thirst for which there is no relief. Sometimes I think America is full of hungry ghosts. They are depicted iconographically as frantic beings, having very small necks and gigantic bellies. As hungry ghosts, we feel a deep sense of impoverishment and lack. There's a kind of narcissism in our neediness that centers on our own condition and excludes others. We are continuously scanning, on the lookout for something for us, but nothing that we find satisfies, but only increases the pain of our lack and the frenzy of our search. In these times of widespread homelessness, there are many hungry spirits in the streets. Okay? They may be seen scrounging in garbage cans and sleeping in the sheltered corners of parking lots. This is not greed in the strictest sense, but the feeling of denial that drives the hungry ghosts. Or we could think of senators who, hearing of a pandemic coming, are so greedy and so hungry for things that they go and sell off their stocks instead of warning all of us, right? Homelessness people are senators, hungry ghosts. Now the animals are just what you would expect. They are locked in, and their breadth of horizon is not very great. Their problem is a kind of mental dullness, a kind of waking stupor that leaves them vulnerable to bad judgment and consequences, including exploitation with others. I saw somebody in the animal realm on YouTube the other day. It was down in Miami before they shut the beaches, and they were interviewing this student, and he said, I'm not going to worry about any coronavirus. I'm going to party, and I can't believe they're shutting the bars down, and I'm just going to keep on partying. And then a bunch of people got together, all hugged and stuck their tongues out at the camera. They were in the animal realm. Yeah. See, and again, their problem is a kind of mental dullness, a kind of waking stupor that leaves them vulnerable to bad judgment. When we are cycling through the animal realm, we are impulsive and unreflective, though not just to pick on students. I could think of certain high government officials who would remind me of this as well, right? Or even professors, right? Or even me sometimes, okay? Right? When we are cycling through the animal realm, we are impulsive and unreflective in the pursuit of the earthly satisfactions of the body, food, sex, sleep, warmth, not necessarily in that order. We are an easy mark for predators of various kinds and are unable to see our own condition as the source of our difficulties. Our actions are governed by tropisms and limitations that any watcher of TV nature specials will recognize immediately. The human realm is the lowest of the higher realms. Our problem, as you probably already know, is desire. With us, it is a bit more tempered and rational than the blind craving of the hungry ghosts or the automated grazing of the animals. We are caught between the hammer and anvil of two very powerful laws. They are the law of attraction and repulsion and the law of impermanence. The law of attraction and repulsion manifests in us in the form of desire and aversion, which are two sides of the same coin. We're always in a state of wanting something. It is important to understand that this wanting is a given. It's a constant. It never goes away. It sometimes appears to go away, but it simply changes objects. No matter how much we get, we always want. This runs afoul of the law of impermanence, which simply reflects the fact that everything changes. Everything is in the process of becoming something else. Nothing that we get appears quite the same as it was when we just wanted, like that toy we wanted, and then when we get it on Christmas morning, we play with it for a day, and then we want something else. And even if it's a close enough approximation in the beginning, it won't be that way for long. The things that we want, even when we have attained them, are constantly leaving our lives, and the things that we don't want, even when we have successfully avoided them, will eventually show up. But we don't give up. In the human realm, in the loka of the humans, our condition is one of continuous embroilment, running after some things, running away from others, while the ground keeps shifting under our feet. Now, the loka of what's called the demigods, right? The weakness of the demigods is in their envy, so their condition is one of strife. In their endless striving, it doesn't seem that they ever wonder if they have enough. They are obsessed with the belief that they don't have as much as the gods, right? The motive here is not material but interpersonal. As demigods, we're always comparing ourselves and our condition to that of others and coming out on the short end. Our need is equal, to surpass, to dominate. We are very competitive in all areas of our lives and are unable to rest if we think we are losing anywhere. Right? The demigods are shown in the paintings as medieval Central Asian military types carrying out yet another fruitless assault on the realm of the gods, though I think of them as Wall Street executives. The gods are at the pinnacle of existence. They come in three varieties. The gods of the desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realm. The differences are related to their ability to enter into and maintain states of concentration. The one accessible to us are the gods of the desire realm. Theirs is a certain success. They are absorbed in the pleasure of the senses, flavors, aromas, music, and so on. The gods of the desire realm may be viewed any Sunday in the magazine section of the newspaper, where they are usually displayed with their beautiful children, gathered around a bounteous table at their somewhat less than rustic country estate overlooking the vineyards. They are often kind enough to share with us their recipes and their opinions on the comings and goings of their peers. There is something obviously trivial about them, and a very keen observer may note that their ability to use their senses to discern the relative reality of the world is strangely impaired. Their downfall is their pride, and their fall is inevitable. According to the tradition, just before they fall into lower migrations, their garlands of flowers begin to wilt. Their bodies develop offensive odors, and they're avoided by the other gods. It can't be put much better than that. Well, thank you, Lama Ed. Lama Ed is gone now, I found, sadly, but he still speaks to us. So think of it like this. In the God world, you're just sort of blissed out. Chogyam Trungpa has a nice term for this. He calls it spiritual materialism, right? You're into higher pleasures, like you're a god. I think they all live in California and have money market accounts and practice meditation and yoga. The weakness is you need more and more of these experiences to satisfy you as you begin to grow jaded, right? And if you've ever watched the TV series Mad Men, it's fascinating at the end he's meditating, right? That's spiritual materialism in a nutshell. But as you begin to grow jaded, you could decline into the world of the jealous gods or the demigods. Instead of being blissed out, you become energetically involved and ambitious and full of creative energy, always wanting to have more and never really satisfied with what you achieve. As I said, these folks possibly congregate in New York on Wall Street. But you can never achieve enough to satisfy you with your godlike ambition. You read where some of like the guy who owns Amazon makes like $1 million a minute or something, but he still won't pay his workers because he's trying to make more money, right? So that doesn't work out. So this could lead to the world of humans, the realm of desire. Through intellect and emotion, you seek to hold on and to make everything permanent and substantial and satisfactory, as humans are so good at. This is sometimes known as the American way, or the middle class, the bourgeoisie, wherever they live. But growing tired, no matter how much you try, you can't hold on to make everything consumer-friendly. No matter how hard you try, you just want to use your body and experience it to forget everything, to find oblivion. So you enter the world of the animals, instinct, a simpler way of dealing with things. Eat, drink, fuck, right? Ever been in that world? The world where you just want to experience the pleasures of the body and forget everything? Perhaps found most fully on a vacation resort island I saw an ad for called Hedonism 2. But really it refers to any couch potato moment, right? But the inability to find permanent physical pleasure in oblivion, no matter how hard you try, can lead to the world of the hungry ghost. You want more than satisfaction of instinct can give, because even on the animal level, there was a sort of innocence of give and take. But in this world, it's all take from others and never giving. An asocial world of me, what I want. Ever meet someone living in this world or been in it yourself for a while? But this world can lead you one step further down to the world of the hell beings, a world defined by aggression and hate. You seek to destroy what you become disappointed with because it couldn't slake your incessant cravings, a world of infantile rage and hate. Just think of the mass shooters. They're hell beings, right? The ones who just want to shoot people, right? Infantile rage and hate, right? Now, I've met hell beings when I worked as a prison guard, like I talked about before, but I, alas, have sometimes myself entered hell for a time and been a hell being, which is a cold, frozen place of solitude and anger. Ever been there? That place where you become all souled up and withdrawn and refuse to talk and look at and consider, right? You know? Yeah. Well, these are all states of mind, one of which predominates and creates a world you could be trapped in now wherever your now finds you. But if you pay attention, you can avoid the horrid states, as they are called, and move on to face the other deities. But the lokas are always there, and as a sort of constant temptation, right? When we refuse the wisdom of no escape and seek to run from the cold, hard clarity of wisdom into the soft, comfortable light, right? So, a brief overview of the peaceful deities, yeah? So on day one, you have the Buddha family, and you face the challenge of fear and ignorance. Ignorance here means self-delusion, causing you to live in your own world of delusion, a sort of ignorance is bliss attitude that can then lead to fear of what makes it all possible, being a bodily being. The wisdom of fear and ignorance then leads to wisdom, which is spacious and all-embracing. On day 2 comes the Vajra family, and you face the challenge of anger. Now, anger makes you separate. The wisdom of anger then reflects forms of all things around without grasping them, like a mirror reflects without touching. So you can turn anger into respect. On day 3, the Ratna family appears, and you face the challenge of egotism or false pride. But the feeling of self-centeredness can be recognized as the wisdom of equality, and the desire to save myself transformed to the desire to save all others just like I want to save myself, compassion. Really, think about how you seem to be the center of the world to yourself right now, and all the world's orbiting around you. But then you realize everybody's experiencing that. Everybody is the center of the world. Everyone. Right? On day 4, you meet the Padma family and face the challenge of desire as obsession, a sort of driving force to focus in on one thing, to concentrate on one thing and have it. But this can be transformed into the ability to focus in and appreciate detail and difference or discernment. On day 5, you meet the Karma family and face the challenge of jealousy. The strong will to want something just for yourself with no one else having it becomes a force to accomplish all things for all beings. So jealousy can be transformed into will or resoluteness. On day 6, all the families appear simultaneously in a static tableau. Right? But on each day, you could go off into a loka, right? But you'll notice as you read, wherever we go, and whatever loka we might end up in, Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, will come to find us. If you read in the text, notice how whatever realm you're in, like a hell realm or a jealous god realm, Avalokita, as he's called, and the female form of Avalokita is Prajnaparamita, right? So the lady comes to find us wherever we are, and she will appear in many different forms to fit that realm in order to save us. So in a god realm, he might be Indra, he or she, Indra, leader of the gods, who purifies pride. In the realm of the jealous gods, Vimachitra, a warrior hero who purifies envy. If you're in the animal realm, Drushvasima, a lion, I think it's Aslan, who purifies delusion. If you're in the hungry ghost realm, he'll appear as a lordly hungry ghost with mouth of flame who purifies greed. And if you're in the hell realm, then the Dharma king, who purifies aggression, will appear, a great warrior, and I think he would appear to me as a Jedi if I was in that realm. Right? And in the human realm, Avalokiteshvara appears as Siddhartha Gautama, the historical Buddha, the one who woke up. And it's as if each day was a more determined attempt to wake you up. Hey, wake up. Hey, wake up. Hey, wake up. Hey, hey, hey. Right? So the deities get more and more attention-gripping to try to focus the mind. And during the 6th and 7th days, the ultimate threat is dumbness and stupidity. You have to overcome just being stupefied by the whole experience. Have you ever felt like that? That life is like some incredibly wonderful and terrifying moving spectacle that just dumbfounds you? I'm really feeling like that right now. I don't know about you, right? Just read the morning paper, self-isolate, try to order from Publix, and they'll tell you they'll get to you in a week. And you're like, well, all right. I'm just sort of dumbfounded, okay? And the idea, though, is to be awake. Recognize that is your own reality you're confronting, and your reality is everyone's reality because we're all in this together. So to be set face to face is to recognize these realities for what they are and to achieve self-knowledge and know yourself in the bardo. Now, day 7 is my favorite because all 5 families start to transform. They're really trying to wake you up. They're not wrathful yet. They go to this in-between place, and they're called the Vidyadharas, the 5 Vidyadharas and the 5 Dakinis, right? So now the families are in motion and begin to change their aspect, showing up in a new and even more energetic form, representing the stage in between the peaceful and wrathful aspects of the families. The male and female aspects together represent fierce and urgent energy of speaking the truth about reality and the Dharma. So they're shown as emerging from the throat. The male aspect is called Vidyadhara, knowledge holder, and the female, Dakini, sky goer. And they both dance together and sing in the sky, which represents the void. They're attempting to attract our attention again before we move into the wrathful aspect. And they're shown as dancing and singing to invite us to wake up. Particularly the female aspect represents a vital energy that's at the root of inspiration necessary to act in an enlightened way, calling us to join their dance in the sky. The Dakini symbolizes levels of personal realization, the sacredness of the body, both female and male, the profound meeting point of body and mind in meditation, the visionary realm of ritual practice, and the empty, spacious qualities of mind itself. So the 5 Vidyadharas and their Dakini consorts represent levels of awakening, and they are potent symbols of the reality of our everyday life. The point is to realize the nature of our own mind now, wherever our now finds us, which the symbolic forms incarnate. Here at this point, at the midpoint between the 14 days and the bardo, it's as if reality has gone crazy in its passion to wake us up, gone wild in its endless attempts to make us aware of who we really are. So around the 5 Buddha families and their aspects of Vidyadharas and Dakinis are gathered vast crowds of other Dakinis. And really, it sounds to me like the greatest rock concert of all time. Let's look at it. It's like reality's thrown a rock concert to try to wake you up. But this is a wild one, right? Beyond those Vidyadharas will appear countless crowds of Dakinis, Dakinis of the 8 charnel grounds, Dakinis of the 4 families, Dakinis of the 3 worlds, Dakinis of the 10 directions, Dakinis of the 24 places of pilgrimage, male and female warriors and servants, and all the male and female protectors of Dharma, wearing the 6 bone ornaments with drums, thigh bone trumpets, skull drums, banners made from skin, with countless different kinds of musical instruments, filling all the regions of the universe, so they rock and tremble and shake, making all the instruments vibrate with music, so as to split one's head, dancing various dances in the sky. They will come to invite those who have kept the practice, and to punish those who have not. And I think surely the Beatles are up in there, the Rolling Stones, certainly Bruce Springsteen, and Leonard Cohen. Just put in whoever you want, right? But remember, these are the self-display of our own true mind and represent the heroic qualities we need to follow the Buddha's path. Notice also the symbolism, which can seem very gruesome. Human bone instruments, human skulls. And this is related to the image of the cemeteries where the dead were taken, the so-called charnel or cremation grounds. And here the Vajrayana principle of the sacredness of life touches the very extremes of human experience and does not withdraw, but continues to look with the eyes of compassion. Francesca Fremantle can really help us understand this. This is on page 303. Sometimes life itself forces this awareness upon us. When we are close to sickness, death, or danger, when we feel suddenly exposed and vulnerable, or when there is too much pain and horror to bear, we enter the charnel ground. It is a state of mind where we can easily become unbalanced. We feel we are living on the edge and everything crowds in upon us, clamoring with demands. At such times we may be particularly open to hearing the voice of these enigmatic messengers. But in our state of fear and confusion, we are not sure whether they are helpful or harmful. We do not know whether to trust them or not. The only solution is to relax, to let go into the dance of life and death that is taking place all the time. The brilliant light of knowledge shines from the heart of the Vidyadharas, inviting us to merge with them, while simultaneously the dull light of ignorance tempts us to retreat into instinctive automatic behavior, to turn our backs, curl up, and go to sleep. Well, if there ever was a passage that resonated with me, that's it for right now. Isn't that it? What we're facing with this plague, right? This pandemic, the people who are dying, the people who need help, and the idea of continuing to look with the eyes of compassion. Because think of the people who are continuing, like especially the medical people I've been reading about. Like I was reading about an emergency room surgeon, an emergency room person, who he's got a 2-year-old and a newborn baby, but he's having to be totally separate from them because he's working, so he can't see his babies, he can't, but he goes in risking his life, right? Risking his life to help people. Because it must be terrifying to have to deal with something like this. And yet people are. They're facing it with eyes of compassion. Just what this is talking about, right? Life in all its wonder and in its terror. The wonder and terror reveal a gap, a bardo, an in-between place that none of the words or symbols our unenlightened culture has given to us can seem to deal with. Now, isn't that the way it is? I don't trust any philosophy that does not take account of the yuck and muck, the pain and disgust, the hows of pain as well as the hows of pleasure. This is the play of opposites which we tend to repress, not wanting to think about the garbage that goes with the roses, the pain that goes with the pleasure, the terror that goes with the wonder. All of it contained within the terrifying wonder of human consciousness. Nobly born, know yourself in the bardo. Right? This book is an account of our everyday life and experience, where our everyday might find us, right? Wherever our everyday might find us. And one day for sure it will find us dying, and that will be another everyday for us, right? But for those who did not recognize themselves, who couldn't take advantage of the great rock concert thrown by the knowledge holders and the sky dancers, comes the bardo of the wrathful deities. Thank you for your kind attention.